Welcome back, guys. It's QA1 day, and that means rearranging the shop. Let's go. That's right. Welcome back once again to Pro Vibe Garage. I'm Jamie. There's Mara. And we will continue part two of building and assembling the QA1 Four-link rear suspension. Before we can do that, everything that I had going on in here, I have to rearrange this entire area. So I'll save you all the headache. I don't need to show you me cleaning, but when I come back, I'm hoping that all of this is going to be put away and we can start building. I got to take the charger to here. So lots to do. I know. Let's go. Let's do this. I'll see you all in a minute. There it is, guys. Mara is off the lift and in her temporary new home for the foreseeable future. I'm going to keep the dollies there for now so I can wheel it around, and I've got to lift this up. So yeah, I'll lock the dollies there, lift this all the way up so I can start taking this apart. And then when I'm ready, I can start putting this one together, bring it up over the chairs, put it down in here and start getting all this stuff put in there. Brakes are on, both wheels tested, works effectively. She's not rolling anywhere. Now, I gotta get this ass in the air and figure out how to unbolt everything and drop it all, get all this out of here. So rear shackles, easy enough to figure out. Front, 4 bolts, whatever's going on back here, we'll figure all that out. I'm gonna jack the car up, get that ass in the air. Looks pretty tough, way up here in the air. We should make it into a monster truck. Nah, just kidding. So it looks like the front of the leaf spring and the rear at the shackle is the only thing holding this on. There's no shock mounts, there's nothing else other than right here and up there on both sides holding this together. So I'm gonna lower this back down so the tires are in contact with my dollies. I'm gonna start with the rear shackle. I'm gonna loosen this and remove this together, both sides, and let that drop down, raise the car back up. No tension on the leaf springs, and I will then remove the, I think there's 4 bolts holding that to the front. See if I can get under here. All right, I'm gonna block out my light there. Beside the frame rail, you've got the mounting point for the front of the leaf springs. There's the 4 bolts I'm going to be taking out. And yeah, so we'll drop the car back down onto my dollies, remove the back here so there's not so much of a spring. I don't want to hurt myself. And then we'll lower this out of the car by raising the car and go from there. Goodbye 7 1/4 rear end. And also goodbye 318 rated, very weak leaf springs, and somebody's very long shackles that have been put in here somewhere over the years. No idea when or who put these on, but proper shackles should only be about this long. I don't know who did this, but it's gonna be good to be gone. And then all this is going to be bolted into the place of the front leaf springs. This is going to be holding this and all these nice doodads, and yeah, really beefing up this rear suspension. Gonna handle like a brand new car, not a 56-year-old huge clunker of a car. So can't wait. Let's get this dropped. All right, so I've got barely any pressure on the tire. So this has a little bit of spring, but not much. and a 19mm socket. And I'll see if I can back this out. Got that. Got a little bit. Need a little less. Need my mallet. There we go. Back one on one side's done. I'll do the same to the other. There's a good look with the lights on. That is the front bracket, I guess, the 4 bolts. Well, 2 in my case. It seems 2 have gone missing over the years somewhere on the driver's side. So I'll loosen these 2 off and this should come out. There it is, guys. Ass is out, way up in the air. I don't know if you can actually tell how high that is, but here, look at this. There's the trunk to me. I'm 6'2", almost, just over 6'1". So that's a good 5 feet in the air. The rear end is out. She is free and clear. I'm gonna take these wheels off and I'm gonna put them on the Dana, slide the Dana in, and then we can start mocking up all this good stuff. I had to take a minute and say, I love this. The next stage in the evolution of Mara. The rear end is empty. I love it. Get in under here and you can see from my last video, the new cross member here, welded in, ready to go, get its new parts here. But I'm now a little concerned with the original cross member for the shock mount. A good charger buddy of mine, Steve, he did his QA1 install and said that that gets in the way with the trailing arms. I'm going to guess the brackets and everything for the upper trailing arms. I think his were hitting that. So once I start mocking everything up, I got to see if mine's going to come into contact with that. Maybe it's a lowering thing. I'm not sure, but we'll see. So that will be something to look out for in the future if I have an issue with clearance on that. But now I get to get rid of this, take the wheels off of that, put it onto this. I'm so excited now. So this Dana 60, it's absolutely no comparison in the size difference from this to this tiny 7 1/4. Imagine running a Hemi and trying to do anything and pooping the gears out of the rear of this thing. This is why this came with the Hemi. So I am super excited now. I get to start putting all this together into Mara, get that ass fatter than it is already. I love it. Look at that. That's one sexy ass. I can't say it enough. All right, let's keep going. So now I am taking the wheels off of my original 7 1/4 and throwing them onto the Dana 60. There is no comparison in the size of this. It's amazing. So let's get this guy off, throw it onto here. I gotta lift this up so I can get it under there, and then we're gonna move that under there. I've got the rear end under the car, I get to center it side to side, as well as figure out center of my wheel well. I want this right in the center so I can now find my pinion angle, which I'm not gonna do too much worrying over that. I'll find an angle that my car is sitting at, and I will mock the pinion angle 1 degree down from that for now. That can all be adjusted with these later on and with these. So I need to find 1 degree down from the transmission angle. So that obviously isn't an issue right now, as I don't have an engine, I don't have a transmission. So for now, I am going to lower the car slightly so this is fitting pretty much where I want it ride height wise, and then I can start mocking up where all the brackets and everything are gonna go and get welding these guys to the axle housing. So that's my next step, is starting to load all these things up and figure out where everything's gonna sit. And yeah, I'm starting to get excited. This is awesome. So there you go. Let's keep going. Right, back out. I skipped a step. Now I've got to figure out my left and right for the mounting brackets on the bottom here on the perches. So we'll figure out left and right. I don't know if they're marked. I don't see a mark anywhere. We'll see. Now, before I go any further with this, now that I'm starting to actually put these things together, I'm going to open up this bag and I am going to lay out everything here front to back and kind of organize all the bolts that I'm going to need, so I'm not guessing and second guessing myself. So that is number one priority right now. Get rid of the bag and load it all out. All right, all laid out. 2 brass ones, bigger ones, medium ones. These are all the coarse thread. Then I got fine thread, smaller, and yeah, ready to get going. All right, so there's the driver's side. This goes to the front and the inside of the axle. The locating dowel will locate this on the perch, and just like that. And then the U-joints, or I guess U-bolts, washer, and the nylock nuts. So that now, of course, doing this by myself, I need a couple of extra hands, but it's not the end of the world. I'll get this started and then should be good from there. All right, up to the nylock, get the backside. All right, I'll get the other one. And then these nuts are torqued to 79 foot-pounds. Nuts on the U-bolts on the axle brackets are torqued to 79 foot-pounds. Next up is the trailing arm bracket. This mounts to the factory front leaf spring mount using 3/8 by 1.125 inch hardware. That's these little guys with 2 washers and a nylock nut. Now, brackets are not right and left specific, will be mounted with the 90-degree edge facing up, torque to 31 foot-pounds. So that's this way up. That's how it looks in the photo. There's no, I don't see a real 90-degree anywhere, but this is how it is in the photo. Goes up. That will mount into the factory front leaf spring mounting position with these guys and the corresponding nylock nut. And I'm going to use the small washers. So let's set the camera up and get in there. Okay. The factory front leaf spring mounting plate, this way up, bolt with a washer through that, and then through the hole, another washer on the other side, and the nylock nut. And simple as that. We're gonna do all 4 nuts and bolts and all that good stuff. And I should note at this time, once this is done, I'm actually going to get a plate for the other side of this over here that will stiffen this corner up on both sides. I just did the a template for it. As opposed to buying one, I'm gonna do it out of 1/8" stainless steel because I don't wanna spend $300 and something on 2 plates of steel when I've got tons of it sitting around the house or around the shop and I can make my own. So this is gonna be temporarily set up here, and once I get my plates cut out, holes drilled, I'll mount that on the back side of this to strengthen that up quite a bit more. And now, just having fun bolting it up so I can mock everything up and get everything welded on the axle over there. So yeah, lots to do. And then tighten these up to 31 foot-pounds. My big issue with that is I think I can only go to 70 foot-pounds or 60 foot-pounds on my torque wrench. So I'm gonna have to fudge that a little bit. All right, let's do the fast forward, the time lapse. Next, we've got the red anodized shock mounts. They mount to the inboard side of the axle brackets. Shock mounts will use a longer 1/2 inch by 2.75 through bolt. That goes up in here, the top. Through bolt washer and nylock nut in the top connection. Install the shorter 1/2 inch by 1.25, that's this guy, with the washer into the lower threaded hole of the shock mount. So that'll go through the mount that we put on the axle, through that and into here with a washer. So yeah, I'm gonna grab the smaller washers. Well, the smaller of the medium-sized washers, and one will go on the back of that with the nylock nut. I assume the mounting bracket will be between this and then, yeah, so this guy as well gets a washer like that, and then through the mounting bracket like this, attaching all of that together. Okay, let's get this at. So the diagram for this shows a hole still sticking up at the top, and you can see the bottom one a little bit there. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start with that mounted here.
and the bottom one through the second from the bottom on the other side. I'm going to tighten that down. On the top bolt gets the washer, nylock nut. I will tighten these completely with my impact, and then they get torqued to 50 foot-pounds. You'll notice I'm torquing everything as I go, so that way I'm making sure I'm not forgetting anything. So 50 foot-pounds for these two nuts, and then repeat on that side. Shock mounts are in. They are torqued to 50. I was wrong. My torque wrench goes down to 50 foot-pounds. I thought 60, but okay, so that's done. The front brackets are torqued. They're a little bit more than 31, but I'm okay with that. I don't think, other than putting the plate on, I'm gonna be taking it off, so I don't think it'll hurt it. Next, we've got the trailing arm, the lower trailing arm. To assemble the lower trailing arms, thread one right-hand jam nut onto the XMR 10 by 12 rod end. All right, so with anti-seize on the threads, thread the rod end into the lower trailing arm. So jam nut onto the right-hand thread, Heim joint, I guess. Let me see here. Yeah, it says rod end. Well, I don't know if there's a real difference if it's a Heim joint or a rod end, but we will now thread that onto there. Get some anti-seize. I gotta go get that out of the cupboard, and we are going to thread that into this end of the lower, this guy, Jesus. Lower trailing arm, I keep forgetting. So when it's mounted, I know that the grease nipple will be facing down, and adjust the lower trailing arm by turning the rod end in or out to the correct center to center length of the bolt holes. Ensure both arms are exactly the same length. Okay, so all A bodies, 62 to 72 B body, it says to start at 22 and 5/16 inch, and that is center to center. That's a recommended starting point. So we'll get through that in a second. We're threading this on. I know when I was doing the front suspension, I put the anti-seize on before the jam nut, and it liked to skloosh it all up in the front side. So I'm gonna leave that off until the jam nut's on. Then I shall put some on the threads behind that. Then into this here. Of course, I can't do it with my left hand. There we go. We're gonna thread that in, and I'll stop in a second, take a measurement. And it says 22 and 5/16 center to center. Bring you down and show you that. There you go. So center to center, I've got 22 and 3/4. So we get to go in quite a bit. .22 and almost there. One more turn. Let's see. Center this thing. Now this is just a recommended starting point. This will change, I'm sure. 22 1/4 large. There we go. 22 and 5/16. Repeat on the other side. There you have two lower trailing arms, both set up at 22 and 5/16, as it says for 62 to 72 B bodies. There you go. So they have some measurements for different cars depending on what your kit is for, but as you know,
69 Charger is a V-body. So now, moving on, we get to install the bushing end, this guy here, into the middle front hole of the QA1. So the middle front hole, I'm going to start with that guy. I'm pretty sure it's going to be adjusted. I believe Clark's Place put it back into this guy. So I'm going to start with this guy and see how it fits afterwards. So grease fitting facing down, front set of holes in the mounting bracket are the factory location. Further rear wheel placement can be adjusted using the rear row of holes. Attach using the 5/8 by 4.5 inch bolts with 2 washers and nylock nut. The rear axle will need to be mocked up with these lower control arms, the shocks, and the upper trailing arms. So attaching these lower control arms to the axle is not needed at this time. Okay, so let's get the 5/8 by 4.5 inch bolts. And that's quite a bit bigger. And no, there we go. So the brass ones we do 2 nylocks and the 2, I'm going to go with 4 of the bigger guys here. These are all the same. All right, 2 nylock. I'm going to attach. I'll start with the passenger side since I'm over here. All right, ready? All right, let's do it. So there is just enough room to get the washer and the nylock nut back there. Not sure how much room there's going to be for this guy, but we'll see. So now, bushing facing down, or not bushing, but the grease fitting facing down. I'm going to get this into the middle front hole and thread it through. And now, let's tighten her down. Stupid me. Now, there's just a little bit of slack in this. It'll hold itself up. And I think that's where I want it. So I did push this out a little bit farther than it should be, I think. But there we go. Just enough to hold itself up. That's where I want it. That's where Clark's Place said to put it. I don't see that anywhere in the instructions, but I like the idea. I think the front end did something like that too. So that's where that's going to stay. Just enough pressure on there to hold itself up. Now onto the driver's side. So the lower trailing arms now are in. They are holding themselves up, and we get to start on the upper trailing arms. First thing to do, using anti-seize on the threads, thread the right hand rod ends into the right hand threaded end. It'll only go into one end, one's left, one's right. Of the red anodized trailing arm, thread the left hand rod end into the left hand trailing arm. Now, I don't see anywhere using the jam nuts. I'm going to assume that they do. It doesn't say anywhere, but it looks like there's jam nuts on there. So I will put them on. I know there's only 4 left. And I have, with the blue, those are my left hand ones. So I shall put
the jam nut on, left hand, it fits. And then we'll figure out which one this goes into. Let's get this all the way up. That's what she said. And figure out which one is the left hand. Not that side. There it is. Okay, so a little bit of anti-seize on the end of my bolt here, my rod end, and left hand, we're gonna thread that all the way in. It says, using anti-seize on the threads, thread the right hand rod ends into the right hand threaded end of the red anodized upper trailing arm. Thread the left hand rod ends into the left hand threaded end of the trailing arm. Adjust the trailing arm to the center length of 10 3/4 inch with equal thread engagement of the rod ends. All right, so let's get doing that. That's easy peasy. And now for one of the right hand, same thing. I'll thread the nut all the way up, the jam nut all the way up. Yeah, I know, it takes a while. So I'm stopping about, I don't know if you can see that, about a thread and a half, give or take, from the end. And the other end is going all the way to the jam nut almost, because we have to adjust it. Center of hole to center of hole, 10.75, 10 3/4 inch. So I'm gonna get this into here and we'll bring you down here to see. All right, there we go. Center of hole, 10 3/4 it says, and I am 10 5/8. So I will go one turn out, oh, the other way. Two turns out. That looks even there. One turn out. There we go. And we are 10 3/4. All right. Now I'm going to tighten up my jam nut. I am going to keep this so it stays even with the QA1 logo up like that. For now, I don't know if I was in, so you see the QA1 logo facing up, and I'll just tighten these so they're both facing up with that, and that's going to stay like that for now. It will get adjusted, I know, once I start putting everything together. So I'll do the same thing on this side and meet you at the car after. The next step says hang the shocks onto the cross member using 1/2 inch by 1.75 inch hardware. I think they mean 2.75, 2 3/4 inch. Because the only 1/2 inch I've got left are these guys, and they are 2 3/4 to the bottom of the head. So that's the only things I've got that'll fit into the top here. As you can see, the next size up, too big. These are the only ones that'll fit in there. And then these guys, so hardware with 2 washers and a nylock nut, torque to 50 pounds. At this time, it isn't necessary to install the coil springs onto the shocks for axle mock-up. So I'll leave the springs. Let's move my welding gloves. I'll leave the springs off of them for now. I'll hang these. That way this can mount to down here to mock up where I need to weld these guys coming soon to here. Thread the right hand jam nuts. Okay, so we already did that part. So we skipped the shocks. So I will get these, 2 of these and a nylock nut, and we'll head under the car with all of this. and hang this from the previous videos cross member install right there. This here on the side is for that red anodized trailing arm. These guys are for the shocks. So I'm going to hang this this way, and that guy like that. I believe we're tight enough this way, so I don't need to put the washers or spacers inside. They go into the outside, and we will hang it like this. Another washer and the nylock nut. I will tighten this down and torque it to 50 foot-pounds and do the other side. Okay, back on track. Red anodized upper trailing arms. Now, it's going to have these spacers, one on either side of what's connected to the cross member we welded in. Then this 5/8 by 4.5 inch bolt. It gets a washer on both sides and the nylock nut. So that now gets torqued when we're done to 90 foot-pounds. All right, let's set up the camera and install the upper trailing arms. So the next part we're going to do now is the bottom, the back side, the axle mounting side of the trailing arm. Same sort of setup as the bolts up top. A washer that will go through. Let's go with this guy here. You can see it a little better maybe. That will go through with the mounting tabs being the difference on this side here. We are going to take the longer of the two. See, there's a difference here. One is longer than the other. The longer of the two goes to the outside, shorter of the two goes to the inside. That's, I guess, enough to follow. So washer on the bolt, then this tab, I guess axle mounting bracket, then again one of these spacers, and then through the back side of that, I'm going to get the other spacer, and then the longer tab, another washer, and then the nylock nut. We will tighten all that down, and I don't see where it says for anything to be torqued, so give me a second. One other difference to note is I have a new setup. There are no brake lines running on there yet, but it says in the instructions, remove the bolt holding the brake line junction to the axle and move the junction away from the axle. So that would be this guy here. I don't have that. I have one from my old crappy thing there, but that's not going on here. I need to find one of these with the breather instead of what I was given with the tube. I don't want that tube. I want a proper breather. So remove your brake line because these tabs will be welded to this, probably in that area. Remove all dirt and paint from the axle in the area where the upper trailing arm mounts will be welded. Figure 12 shows the location where the mounts will need to be welded. That is this guy here, and no, it does not. That would be the next one, I would imagine. And let's see, with the upper trailing arms, lower the trailing arms and shocks attached to the chassis. Roll the axle into place under the car with the jack supporting the pinion. All right, so for this, I'm just going to be tightening it down a little bit so it actually just makes contact and kind of pinches it. I am not going to do anything right now for torquing it. Later on, once they are welded and mounted, it is torqued, it looks like, to 50 pounds. Attach the shock to the axle bracket. So I'm not sure which one's which here. I'm not going ahead yet. But yeah, I am going to tighten this up so these stay tight and leave it at that for now. And then we got to figure out where we're going to be welding. So let's just tighten these down and build this one as well. I don't think I'm going to be welding this for a little bit. I need to lower the car, roll the axle in here and whatever. But first, before that, these 3D printed pieces will need to be installed on the, I guess, upper side of the mounting brackets on the back of the trailing arms. They will position the mounting brackets to where they're going to go on the axle and keep them straight, and I'll show you that right now real quick. So I've got these tightened down enough where they're staying in place, but I can still move them if I need to. That way, once this is up in the air like that, I will be able to make sure that this is positioned exactly where it's going to go on my axle, and then these little guys here will just clip into this somehow. There, just like that. And it will keep these perfectly straight where they're going to be mounted onto the axle. So nice little piece of hardware. Make sure everything stays straight. And again, this side will have that as well. It just clicks on and it will hold these nice and straight to your axle, wherever that's going to be. And that's going to be a scary moment for me, welding that axle. Okay, brackets are installed. Upper and lower trailing arms are built and installed. The shocks are hanging. It seems now that the next part I have to do is actually roll this under the car, lower the car, raise this up, and attach everything. From there, find out my mounting points, sand this back to bare metal. The mounting brackets on the upper trailing arms are already bare metal, so that's nice and easy. I got to find out where I'm going to be welding to it and then welding, and that's a little scary because my welds are not the greatest. I'm sure I'll get through it. I'll take my time, but I'm going to wait on that. I'm going to get another lift so I can actually lower the car once this is underneath it a little bit and lift this up, attach it all, find out my pinion angle and all that good stuff. But for now, that's the end of part 2. So part 1 was the upper cross member welded in, and I did well with that, I think. Part 2 is building all of the stuff we just did. Part 3 is going to be attaching and welding and finishing. So yeah, that'll come soon. So again, guys, as always, if you haven't, like and subscribe, follow along for more, and check me out on Instagram. I post regular pictures and videos and whatever there on this build. So a bit of extra little fun. ProVibe_garage, and I hope I get to see you all again in the next video. Thanks for watching.